One of the Korean cuisines has become so famous that the Oxford English Dictionary has added the word to the English language. But there's no single Korean food. It's 5 distinct cuisines, shaped by mountains, 2 seas, and a harsh history. We're exploring all 5 in this video. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned until the end. Region 1, Seoul and the Center. For 500 years, this was the seat of kings, and the cooking here carries that inheritance. Refined, balanced, moderate. Central Korean food is less fiery than the south and less rustic than the mountains. Now let's discuss its cuisines. Bulgogi. We start with a dish that says Korea on a grill. Bulgogi, literally fire meat, is thin sliced beef marinated in soy sauce, sugar, sesame oil, garlic, and grated pear, then grilled until the edges caramelize and the meat turns sweet, savory, and tender. Its roots run straight into the royal court, where a refined version called naengmyeon was served to kings. Today, it's wrapped in lettuce with rice, garlic, and a dab of soybean paste, and it's often the very first Korean dish a foreigner ever tries. Sweet, smoky, and gentle, the diplomat of Korean cooking. But remember it as we go, because by the end, you'll see that the grill, for all its fame, is only one note in a much larger song. Japchae. If Bulgogi is Korea's handshake, Japchae is its celebration. Springy sweet potato glass noodles are stir-fried with beef and a rainbow of vegetables, spinach, carrot, onion, and mushroom, each cooked separately, then tossed together with soy sauce and sesame. It was born as a banquet dish in the royal era, and it still appears at holidays, weddings, and birthdays. Glossy, slightly sweet, and beautiful to look at, it shows off the central instinct for balance. The old idea that a good plate should carry 5 colors and 5 flavors at once. Naengmyeon. And here's a quiet twist of history. Naengmyeon, chilled buckwheat noodles in an icy broth, isn't originally from Seoul at all. It came down from the north, from Pyongyang and Hamhung, and settled in the capital when families fled south during the war. The Pyongyang style is clean and delicate. The Hamhung style is chewy and fiery with chili. It's proof that Korea's most refined cold dish is also a refuge of northern elegance preserved in the south. Now we leave the palaces and the plains behind and head southwest into the region Koreans themselves call the soul of their cuisine. Region 2, Jeolla, the southwest. Jeolla is Korea's breadbasket, wide fertile plains, mild weather, and a long coastline stacked with shellfish. Ask a Korean where to find the best food, and the answer more often than not is Jeolla. Here, the meal isn't a plate, it's a landscape of dishes, and fermentation is treated as a fine art. Bibimbap. The region's most famous export is a bowl of controlled chaos. Bibimbap means simply mixed rice. A bed of warm rice crowned with an array of seasoned vegetables, sautéed beef, a raw or fried egg, and a spoon of red chili paste, all stirred together at the table into one harmonious, glossy tangle. The most celebrated version comes from the city of Jeju. Served in gleaming brass bowls, the rice sometimes cooked in beef broth, nutty, savory, spicy, and fresh. It's the whole philosophy of Korean eating in a single bowl, with many separate elements mixed into balance. The banchan table and hongeo. But Jeolla's real signature isn't one dish. It's the sheer number of them. Order a meal here and the table vanishes under a dozen, 2 dozen, or sometimes 30 small side dishes, or banchan, pickles, greens, braised fish, fermented crab, dish after dish, most of them free, and the region takes fermentation to its outer edge with hongeo skate fermented until it releases a sharp cloud of ammonia that outsiders fear and locals adore. Traditionally eaten with steamed pork and aged kimchi in a 3-part bite. It captures the Jeolla spirit perfectly, abundant, generous, and utterly unafraid of a bold flavor. Now we cross to the other side of the peninsula, to the busy ports of the southeast. Region 3, Gyeongsang, the southeast. The southeast is Korea's industrial and maritime engine, anchored by the port city of Busan and the inland city of Daegu. The food here matches the character of the coast. punchy, unfussy, salty, and hotter than most of the country. Dwaeji gukbap. The soul food of Busan is a bowl of pork and rice soup. A milky broth is simmered for hours from pork bones until it turns rich and cloudy, and then poured over rice and slices of tender pork, finished at the table with fermented shrimp, chives, and chili paste to taste. It's cheap, hot, and deeply restorative. A working person's meal born in the lean years after the war when nothing could be wasted. Humble, hearty, and pure Busan. Milmyeon. And here's the Southeast's cleverest invention. When northern refugees in Busan craved their beloved cold buckwheat noodles but couldn't find buckwheat, they reached for cheap American wheat flour instead, and milmyeon, wheat noodles, was born. It's Naengmyeon's scrappy southern cousin, chewy noodles in a chilled, faintly sweet broth or tossed in a spicy red sauce. A whole dish conjured out of what was missing. It's the taste of a city built by people starting over. Now we climb east and north up into the cold spine of the country. Region 4, Gangwon, the Eastern Mountains. Gangwon is Korea's highland, steep forested mountains dropping to a rugged east coast. It's cooler, poorer in flat farmland, and historically frugal. Rice was scarce up here, so the food leaned on what the mountains gave. Buckwheat, potatoes, corn, wild greens, and freshwater fish, while the coast added squid and pollock. Gangwon cooking is plain, hearty, and honest, the food of people who made a lot out of a little. Dakgalbi. The mountain city of Chuncheon gave Korea one of its most beloved communal dishes, Dakgalbi. Chunks of chicken are marinated in a sweet, spicy chili paste and stir-fried on a huge flat griddle at the center of the table, tumbled together with cabbage, sweet potato, rice cakes, and perilla leaves until everything glazes and chars. It started as a cheap grill for soldiers and students and became a national favorite. Spicy, sticky, and sociable. A dish you cook together and eat together. Makguksu. Alongside it comes makguksu, roughly made noodles, chewy buckwheat noodles served cold in a tangy chilled broth or tossed with chili, herbs, and crisp vegetables. Buckwheat thrives where rice won't, so these dark, earthy noodles became the everyday grain of the highlands. Cool, nutty, and rustic, makguksu is the mountains in a bowl. Simple ingredients, honestly handled. Now we travel as far from the mainland as Korea goes out to sea to a volcanic island with a culture all its own. Region 5, Jeju, the island. Jeju is a volcanic island off the southern coast, and its isolation shaped a cuisine unlike anything on the mainland. The soil is black basalt, the sea surrounds everything, and for centuries the island survived on what it could grow between the rocks and pull from the water. Two things define its food: pigs raised on the island and the sea harvested by hand. Dwaeji. Jeju's black pigs, or Dwaeji, are a point of island pride. The pork is prized for its firm texture and deep flavor, grilled over an open flame and dipped in a salty sweet anchovy sauce called milmyeon, found nowhere else. Rich, smoky, and unmistakably local, black pork barbecue is the meal every visitor to Jeju is told to eat. It's the island's answer to the mainland grill, with the same fire but entirely different soul. The haenyeo sea. But Jeju's true icon isn't cooked over fire, it's pulled from the ocean by the haenyeo, the island's legendary women divers. Some in their 70s and 80s plunge 10 meters down without oxygen tanks, holding a single breath to gather abalone, sea urchin, and conch, surfacing with a distinctive whistling gasp. Their culture is so remarkable that UNESCO named it a heritage of humanity. Their catch becomes the island's most treasured food: creamy abalone porridge speckled green with the shellfish's own liver, raw urchin folded into seaweed soup, and conch sliced and eaten fresh at the water's edge. It's the purest expression of Jeju, the sea, gathered by hand and barely touched. Now, having crossed every region, let's pull back to the thread that runs through all of them: the street and the ferment. Street food. You can eat your way across the entire peninsula without ever entering a restaurant, because Korea's street food is its own institution. Come nightfall, orange tents called pojangmatcha bloom along the pavements with plastic stools, steaming pots, cheap liquor, and a crowd, and the world has taken notice. When the Michelin Guide arrived in Seoul, it began handing its great food honest price honor to humble market eateries and family stalls, and the century-old Gyeongsang market with its noodle grandmothers and pancake vendors became a global pilgrimage after Netflix put it on screen. A tin-roofed stall judged among the food worth crossing the planet for. That's how seriously this country takes its sidewalks. Tteokbokki. The undisputed king of the street is gukbap, chewy cylinders of rice cake simmered in a glossy, fiery sweet chili sauce, often bobbing with fish cake, boiled egg, and scallion. It's the after-school snack, the late-night craving, the taste of every Korean childhood. Cheap, spicy, gluey, and addictive, nothing else sells like it. Gimbap. Rolled fresh at market stalls, Gimbap is rice and a rainbow of fillings, pickled radish, spinach, carrot, egg, beef, or tuna, wrapped tight in dried seaweed and sliced into bright coins. Portable, endlessly varied, and beautiful in cross-section, it's the picnic food, the lunchbox, and the road trip staple. Don't mistake it for sushi, it's seasoned with sesame, not vinegar, and it belongs entirely to Korea. Hotteok. When winter bites, the griddles turn to hotteok, a yeasted dough pressed flat and fried until the outside crackles and the sugar, cinnamon, and crushed nuts inside melt into hot syrup. You eat it scalding from a paper cup, steam rising in the cold air, crisp, chewy, and molten. It's the sweet warmth of a Korean winter street. And beside all of it stands the country's global champion, chimak, Korean fried chicken with beer. Double fried until impossibly crunchy, then glazed in sweet spicy or soy garlic sauce. It's the dish that conquered the world's takeout menus. Now before we finish, Korea sends us off with something sweet. Desserts and drinks. Bingsu. Korea's desserts run subtle, and none is more beloved than Bingsu. A mountain of impossibly fine-shaved ice is piled high and dressed. The classic with sweet red bean and chewy rice cake, the modern with fresh mango, injolmi, or matcha, then drizzled with condensed milk. It's shared from one giant bowl with several spoons, the treat of a sweltering summer afternoon. Cool, soft, and just barely sweet, the gentle Korean way to end a hot day. Makgeolli. And to drink, reach past the famous soju for something older. Makgeolli, a cloudy, milky rice wine, lightly fizzy and faintly sweet and sour. It's the farmer's drink, ladled from a kettle into shallow bowls and passed around a table, traditionally sipped after a day in the fields. Where the tabletop grill calls for soju's clean burn, Makgeolli is the rustic soul of the countryside in a bowl, the sound of a shared table, and the oldest taste of Korean fermentation you can drink. So we end where we began, at the grill. Korean barbecue may be the image the whole world pictures, the sizzling, sociable face of the cuisine abroad. But you've now seen that it doesn't come close to representing all of Korean food. It's one facet, polished for export. The real answer to what is Korean food is that it's many answers at once. The refined, palace-bred balance of the center, the generous, fermented abundance of Jeolla in the southwest, the salty, sea-fed punch of Gyeongsang in the southeast, the frugal buckwheat and potato honesty of the Gangwon Mountains, and the black pork, hand-dived world of Jeju out at sea. Geography drew the lines, hardship and migration colored them in. Northern noodles were carried south by refugees, and American wheat turned into a Busan classic, a whole peninsula's worth of regional kimchi. What ties it all together isn't a single dish, it's a structure and a philosophy. A table built on rice, a soup, and a spread of little side dishes, all anchored by jang. The fermented sauce is so central that Korea earned 2 separate UNESCO honors for the craft of making and sharing them. Underneath every regional difference runs the same quiet genius: time, salt, and patience turning humble ingredients into something deep. From a slab of black pork on a Jeju grill to a bowl of cold noodles a family carried across a border, that's Korean food. Not one cuisine, but a whole peninsula on a plate.